It is Soccer's Morning Show. It is Jarrett there, John here. It is Tuesday. It is Tuesday Thoughts, and we are officially in a no dilly, no dally zone this morning. So obviously we've got to get things laid out in a proper manner because of this. Doug Robertson of the AJC this morning has come out with a story and quote, Atlanta United goalkeeper Brad Guzan expected to miss at least 10 weeks because of a torn MCL in his left knee, according to a person familiar with the team. Additionally, Thiago Almada will not participate in Tuesday's training session as a precaution. Almada, a candidate for MLS, and this is Robertson's writing from the morning. Almada, a candidate for MLS MVP, collided with an NYCFC player late in last week's game and could be seen hobbling for the game's final minutes. Guzan suffered the injury after an unsuccessful challenge made by NYCFC's Gabriel Siegel in the first half of last week's 1-1 draw at Yankee Stadium. And once again, continuing with Doug, as soon as Siegel ran into Guzan, he began signaling he was in pain. Trainers examined Guzan, and he remained in the game, making 2 saves. No foul was called on Siegel against Siegel on the play. Siegel did go to Guzan as the trainers were looking at him and appeared to make a gesture as if apologizing. Guzan, Atlanta United's captain, has 226 starts in Major League Soccer, 147 for Atlanta United. And then Doug mentions the ruptured Achilles, 2 shutouts this season. Atlanta United manager Gonzalo Pineda expressed his displeasure with referee Drew Fisher after the game because he said it was the second consecutive week that an opposing player attempted to tackle Guzan with no fouls called. Professional referee organization is yet to comment on the no call. And then we get into the Pineda quote. Guzan's backups, Quentin Westberg, Clement Diop. Westberg 68 starts in MLS. Diop has 50. And probably that is the beginning of the iceberg this morning when it comes to folks and discussing things. Good morning, everybody who is here. Jarrett, Brad Guzan out for 10 weeks.
And this is like just said a minute ago on the damn Bird app of hell. It's probably why Gonzalo Pineda was so adamant. He's been very coy in the past with officiating things, if y'all remember. Gonzalo's a lot of times kind of done tongue-in-cheek of, I'm not going to criticize the officials. That's your job. I can't say anything. The curtain fell on that illusion Saturday night when, he was, you look at him after the game, man might have been dressed like Humphrey Bogart, but he was giving Drew Fisher every bit of it after that game. That's probably why. I mean, that's, go back to the Red Bulls game with that tackle, just egregious tackle from Corey Burke on Goose. And it's 2 straight games where Brad Guzan's been really hit hard.
Yeah.
And it's been a thing in the past where they're almost overly protective of goalkeepers, almost like their quarterbacks. But that's 2 straight really nasty challenges on Brad Guzan. And now this one, you've lost your starting goalkeeper and your captain for 10 weeks. Mm-hmm. And, it's very frustrating that there was no punishment going the other way.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you had to send him off and suspend him for multiple games. But there wasn't even a card for that. Mm-mm. And that's, I think, a lot of the frustration here is your free shots are being taken on your goalkeeper and there's no punishment. And you know what's even worse now is if you're Atlanta, there's not really anything you can do about it. You can't go out and get revenge on this.
No. This is not some fourth line National Hockey League thing where you would bring in, you'd call up the guy from the American Hockey League or the East Coast League or have that 10th forward that is there traditionally that's, there for one reason and one reason only. It's for fourth line action when the puck drops. You can't do that.
Yeah, it's just and you can't go out there and get retribution. You're just going to pick up cards for your own guys and nothing. There's not going to be anything to gain from it. You know what I mean? And even when New York City or Red Bulls, when you play them again this year, you can't go out there, and this isn't like hockey where, you can pretty much have the unspoken rule of, hey, when that puck drops, our gloves are falling right after it.
Yep.
And we're going to settle this. It doesn't work that way. So what you're left with here is now missing your captain and missing your starting goalkeeper for extended period of time. And there's not really anything you can do about it within reason. You're also missing your starting six, who is, and I don't really care what the national media wants to write about single pivots. You're talking about missing your starting. You're talking about missing your starting. Your starting six, who's been one of the best in the league.
Yeah.
So it's, man, that's a lot. I hate it for Brad. He worked his ass off to get back healthy. And look, I think there's times you watch Brad Guzan and you can tell that he is, he's not the same age that he was. He's not a spring chicken. That's just obvious.
Yeah.
But the fact he was able to get back and be able to compete as quickly as he was very impressive. Absolutely hate it for him as this, I kind of wondered, are we kind of getting to, the last hurrah of Brad's career?
Yeah.
And it absolutely sucks that now he's sitting here looking like he might not be able to get back on the field for an extended period of time.
Yep. All right. So here are the matches. Let's just say Parzival, Brad Guzan's out at least 10 weeks because of a torn MCL that was suffered in the Gabriel Siegel tackle or collision, whatever you want to phrase it as, in the NYCFC match. I want to say it was in the 19th minute. And I was watching.
Yes, the goon, Tom. Yeah, we don't have like a goon in the same way,
right?
Like you could, you can't just run out a Ty Domi.
Yeah, you can't take out a Ryan Reeves or a Ty Domi or a Sean Avery
and say, hey, go break that man.
Yeah, Brian McGrattan is not available for you in a soccer sense.
Man, I hate Ty Domi so much.
Oh yeah, but if he was on your team, you'd sit there and you go, God, I love Ty Domi.
Oh, absolutely. Anyway,
so all right, so here are the matches. Let's just say 10 weeks. All right, so 10 weeks is what we're staring at here. So that means the match, obviously, at BMO against Toronto, which creates an interesting bit of a homecoming for Quentin Westberg coming up this weekend. So at Toronto, at home against Chicago, probably means that Clement Diop or Justin Garces turns into your keeper for Open Cup competition with Memphis.
I imagine.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I imagine so.
Yeah. It is next man up. So just take your line and sit there and push everybody up one. At Nashville, and that gets you to the end of April. That's 3. At Inter Miami at DRV PNK is 4. Hosting Charlotte at Mercedes-Benz is 5. Quick turnaround, hosting Colorado in the midweek. You're still in match number 5. 6 is at Chicago. 7 is at Orlando. 8 is on a quick turnaround, or 7 is still on a quick turnaround with New England. So 8 is a quick turnaround hosting New England. 9 is at LAFC in early June. 10 is hosting DC June the 10th. So if you're extrapolating, then if everything goes according to plan, with recovery.
This has turned into a Ty Domi roasting session. I'm sorry.
That's perfectly fine. But get this. The 10 weeks and if all preparation goes according to plan, 10 weeks, your first 2 matches back possibly for Brad Guzan. NYC at Mercedes-Benz on June 21st, at Red Bull Arena against Red Bulls on June 24th. How's that for your irony alert for the week?
That both, what I'm waiting for most is I am absolutely waiting for MLS in their infinite lack of
wisdom,
ability to make common sense.
Yeah.
I won't even call it wisdom because it's insulting. I'm waiting for the absolute cluelessness that is MLS to decide, like, to put the wrong officials on those games. Like,
Uh-huh.
you are going to need, you already need it with every Red Bulls game. And this has been our issue with Red Bulls games, where so often you get officials who are not, like, up for those games.
Right.
They are not the right kind of official to handle it. We talked about it. Bart and I talked about it during the Red Bulls game and after the Red Bulls game, that you had an official in that game who wasn't prepared for a street fight.
Mm-hmm.
How in the blue hell did you have an official who wasn't prepared for a street fight?
Yeah.
And then you're going to have one for that game, and you're going to have the right kind of, you're going to have to find the right kind of official for the New York City Atlanta game, because
What
I
do you
don't
want if
care.
they put Drew Fisher back in on that one?
You know what? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me, because MLS just a lot of time, well, not MLS, Pro, a lot of times just, I don't think they think it through.
Yeah.
I think they just they'll think about it as, oh well, I mean, it's New York City, Atlanta. It's not as insane as other games, but you're going to want to have a very good official on that game, because I do not expect it to be a civil game.
And
Because look, memories last.
yeah,
And guys are going to remember, if Seagal's on that field, guys are going to remember what he did. And, even if it wasn't intentional, like, and here's the thing is, like, this is going to be part of the conversation. I think we should make it clear. Like, I don't think it was intentional. He's not trying to hurt the guy. You know, we ran into this yesterday, with the comments that, you know, Franco Ibarra made on Twitter. If you saw, assuming that's Franco, I don't know that it is his real account, but it's certainly not intentional.
Yeah.
But it still is kind of one of those things where, yeah, you could convince me there's going to be some on the field tension because of what happened, because that was your captain that got hurt.
Yeah. And so all of these things that you're staring at, and Pro being Pro, Alex Chilowitz probably will end up being your center ref for Red Bulls, and Drew Fisher will be your center ref for NYCFC. But once again, we get into the issue of Pro and the idea of any kind of internal handling of a situation. And what I mean by that is there any kind of fallout within Pro involving Drew Fisher now that this is, now that you have this? And once again, it goes to the larger issues, Jarrett, that we've been talking about for a long time about not protecting your stars.
Yeah, and to the question that was raised as well is, Almada's. It sounds like Almada's day to day. So you've dodged that bullet. In case y'all missed that part of it as well, it sounds like Thiago Almada is day to day. So that's great news. But Brad Guzan isn't a star in the same way as, like, Thiago Almada, or I don't know if we talked about this yesterday, because I think I sent it to y'all in the SKC match. You had Alan Polito get stepped on, and not even, like, look, we just watched Franco Ibarra get a red card for cleats to the shin bone kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all saw it, but yeah, Alan Polito got stepped on and wasn't even a yellow for Rubio, and guess who ended up scoring the game-winning goal in that game? The guy who did the stomping. It's if for no other reason, like, we talk about protecting stars, but we also talk about how often this league should be protecting not just stars, but also goalkeepers.
Yes.
Like, and how often they have been. And now it kind of feels like you're not. So maybe do that.
Yeah. And it is you wonder, like I said, you wonder if internally, okay, and so now, once again, let me go ahead and do this. Atlanta United has come out with their statement, and so we'll go through it and see how different it might be from what Doug has posted. All right, Atlanta United has come out with their statement involving the absence of Brad Guzan. 10 to 12 weeks. Once again, we went through the 10 weeks, and it is literally one paragraph. And Atlanta United today announced Brad Guzan is expected to miss an estimated 10 to 12 weeks after suffering a torn medial collateral ligament in his left knee during Saturday's 1-1 draw at New York City FC. The injury occurred in the 18th minute when Gabe Siegel contacted Guzan on a challenge during an attempted cross toward goal. Guzan will be reevaluated later during the recovery process to determine his return to the field. So sentence number 2 in the Atlanta United release, the injury occurred in the 18th minute when Gabe Siegel contacted Guzan on a challenge during an attempted cross toward goal. And then paragraph 2 is basically saying Atlanta's next match is against Toronto. So 3 sentences. Second sentence mentions Gabe Siegel by name. So that's where we are. And, it comes to the larger problem. We continue to have these discussions, and the only thing I can think of when it comes to an official and any kind of punishment or reassignment more than anything else comes there was one incident last year where you had one of the senior officials, I believe it was the senior official was on VAR, and a mistake was made, and the official was reassigned. That's the only time I can think of in recent memory where pro has done anything of that volume when there's been any kind of, error from their own perspective.
And see, what's funny about that is like, I was sharing with y'all this morning the thing with the Old Firm where there was a very soft foul given that took away a goal from Rangers in the Old Firm. The center ref from that game, the SFA has already very publicly put him on VAR for the next game to get him out of the limelight.
Right.
They're being very careful about, he's not going to do. Then he's not going to do the next game as center ref. They're trying to, they're trying to keep him out of the limelight a bit. So, well, man, we'll see.
So, basically, once again, Corey Burke, Red Bulls, trucks Brad Guzan, Gabe Siegel plows into him. Once again, nothing. And like I said, this is a multi-pronged issue here. It is about protecting your players, A, protecting your stars, B, protecting your goalkeeper, C, and will pro come out, do an oopsie in a news dump?
I wouldn't expect it.
And so we need to keep an eye on Drew Fisher. We need to keep an eye on a Drew Fisher assignment for this week, because that seems to be the only thing where they'll drift in and go, okay, we're not admitting to anything, but we're reassigning him because of X.
Michael, they are naming names. I think because they're annoyed and they're fed up right now because that's two games with really rough fouls on your starting goalkeeper, and now he's out for an extended period of time, and instead you ended up with you ended up playing that game down a man, and it's not good.
Yeah. Mike Conti, Quentin Westberg's offseason edition becomes crucial. 10 starts for Toronto last season. So, that was this initially when you picked up Quentin Westberg and Clement Diop. It was because you were going to be playing in a perfect world, roughly 50 matches with regular season Leagues Cup, Open Cup, what have you. And picking up Quentin Westberg and Clement Diop, you needed that depth. Now, out of necessity, the depth that you picked up shows that, you have two guys who have MLS experience who coincidentally drove Atlanta United crazy when they were between the sticks in their previous employs. But you've got MLS experience in both Westberg and Diop, and you've got Vicente Reyes, who is out of his mind at times for Atlanta United too, Jarrett. So when it comes to having folks between the sticks, the depth is there from the professional side, but once again, you're 1, 2, 3, and you've seen Reyes evolve last season in USL Championship, where, like I said, there were times where he was playing out of his mind, keeping the twos in matches. So
that's he and Justin Garces need to be part of that conversation that people have about the twos, because as much as we talk about, like, man, they gave up a lot of goals last year. Dude, they should have given up a lot more. Justin Garces and Vicente Reyes both had some absolute unholy performances.
Yep.
Where they were, like, they gave up 4 goals, 3 or 4 goals, and you're like, oh, it should have been 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's where we are. So, there's a lot of stuff to keep an eye on this week. When does Pro traditionally come out with their
Saturday morning?
Week.
I know what you're getting into. Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. Yeah.
Yeah, Saturday morning.
So it'll be. I want to see what plays they review more than anything else.
But the one I really do want to see is the Abato one, not because I think it was a bad call. I didn't like it in the moment, but when you watch the replay, yeah, it's not an intentionally dirty play. It just, stuff happens. I want to hear. I want to hear, for education purposes, how they went through it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's certainly not an issue where I feel like the Abato one, where I feel like they have to tell us what it really was. I don't feel like that at all. That they got it wrong.
Yeah.
I just want to hear what the communication process was, so we can get an idea of how it sounds.
Yeah. And no real surprise, speaking of Franco Ibarra, he's not going to be in the Tuesday training session because, there have been times in the past where, players have red cards or what have you. And so it's like, all right, you're not a part of the plan. No offense, but we need to figure out our solutions to get ready for the next match. So not necessarily a surprise that Franco Ibarra is going to miss the Tuesday training session. But that's where we are, folks. Atlanta United naming Game Siegel in sentence number 2. Brad out. If he's out 10 weeks, that means that his first matches back are the irony of ironies. If it's 12, then he misses those. And you're looking at a return somewhere July 8th-ish. He would miss the 2 New York return fixtures. Philadelphia comes to Atlanta July 2nd. Then they go to Montreal on July 8th. So it would be somewhere in the reverse fixtures with New York late June, or if you expand it to the 12-week period, he misses the Philadelphia at Atlanta match on Big Fox, and he would be back for either the Montreal match at Stade Saputo or the New England match at Gillette when Atlanta United is away in the Northeast for the 8th and the 12th of July. So that's where we are right now when you're looking at Atlanta United. So obviously, I know that you guys are fired up this morning, and we'll go through those comments. Clayton Poss, results of no player protection, results in another Brad injury. Yeah, folks.
It's annoying because there has been player protection in the past in this very specific situation.
Yeah.
And now it's just not. It wasn't protected.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much it, man. Like, and yeah, I do feel. I feel bad for everyone involved because, like I said, I mean, he's not trying to injure Brad.
Yeah.
However,
yes,
we do not intent is hard to judge intent on anything, and that's part of the thing where we talk about when there's cards of, we don't judge intent because you really just can't, man. Like,
No.
it's so tough to do, and the dude's gonna have I think when they play next time, like, it's gonna be tense, and
Oh, well, I mean,
the lack of intent, but the lack of intent doesn't excuse you from picking up a card in that situation. So that's where I think I was most annoyed by it. Was, yeah, I mean, he didn't mean to, of course not. Of course, he's not trying to hurt the guy.
Yeah,
but you still did.
Yeah, and the inequality or iniquity or whatever word you want to use when it comes to enforcement of calls. It's something that we see from pro anyway, when it comes to cards and fouls and calling these kinds of things. But when you have Corey Burke plow into Brad, then you have Siegel plow into Brad, no card, then there's some stuff here. And you wonder, since pro is only responsible to pro, where the accountability is going to come from because of the imbalance in enforcement of fouls, much less cards. And you wonder where the accountability is going to come from here with one of the big names in your league now out 10 to 12 weeks. And it's something that you want the game to be better. You want the game to be as best as it can because you are a top 12 league internationally. And you can't keep having moments like this where a keeper gets trucked and plowed into 2 straight weeks. And now with the second week happening, and I will admit full disclosure that as I was watching the match, when that happened in the 19th minute and Brad is waving feverishly to the bench after that initial contact, I cringed and I was like, okay, this is bad. But for Brad to finish the match on what eventually is diagnosed as an MCL tear,
it's beast mode.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, and look, like, MCL isn't the worst thing to tear. There are a lot worse injuries you can pick up. But man, that is some. It's still some toughness because it still is. It's not like blowing an ACL,
right?
It still hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It is still a painful injury.
Yeah,
and Brad went out there and finished it. I mean, I think my thing was like, damn, he got that close to making a save on a ball on the goal with basically he got that close to making the save on a leg that was not 100%.
No,
makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah, and the questions that everybody has, and these are, and like I said, we'll go through the timeline. I know that you guys are fired up, understandably so. Burned. Isn't the bigger issue on VAR than Drew Fisher in the Guzan incident? Once you see the slow-mo, the straight leg studs up becomes obvious. How did that guy miss it? So for the crew, Drew Fisher, Logan Brown, and Kevin Klinger were your ARs. Your fourth was Ryan Graves. Kevin Terry Jr. was your VAR. Tyler Y. Rostick was your AVAR in this case. So that's your
absolutely. That's part of the conversation. Like, it's a good point because on the live action, it's tough to tell because it could just be a matter of, oh man, it looks like they could have just collided incidentally or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then when you slow it down, yeah, man, it's just like I said, it's not intentional, but it's still a straight leg. Mm-hmm. And as we talked about, you're not judging intent already, but geez, man.
Yeah. The fact that there was no call to the monitor and everything was, I don't think we know if there was any kind of a call or anything like that, and if it was disregarded or anything like that. We don't know the conversations from upstairs to downstairs. Yeah. So that's one thing that we don't know, if there was any kind of a conversation involving hey, do you want to come and look at this? We don't know that. So right now, I think as an assessment, you have to do a blanket assessment on the crew on the whole, whether it's center ref and VARs, center ref, VAR, AVAR. I think that's where your focus is in this moment, and that's where that's where you are. So, a lot of folks are sitting there and asking about red card review. Ricky is asking about captain. Who's going to be captain now? Is it Miles, Brooks, or Hosechu, who had been captain before? That's a good question.
Brooks feels like a strong pick. The thing is, I don't know if Mateus is going to be, if he's 100% or not.
Right.
Miles is another strong choice, I think. Yeah, those are the guys. I think those are the guys I'd be looking at.
Yeah. Everybody is, I think everyone on the in the Twitch pitch and listening to us this morning is going back, and a lot of folks are saying Miles for captain, but I think a lot of folks are actually looking at the replay. And as we're talking it through here on the show, you've got folks that are going back and looking at the replay. David says as he's watching Drew Fisher on replay, came to look at Brad after a while. Nothing appeared to show him holding to his ear or seeming to be at all worried. So burned, it would have been a red card review. They had enough time to do it with the injury.
They did, and they didn't. They did not see anything to suggest a red card to them.
Right. And so, we get into pro and pro being who they are. Once again, there is no free market competition when it comes to referee organizations. You can't just sit there and say, well, I want for lack of a better name, the U.S. referee organization. I want the USRO to now be our referee system instead of pro. There is no set for recall and open debate and putting it out for bid. It is pro, and that's it.
Yeah.
So this is, I guess, our yearly siren call, Jared, or quarterly siren call about pro and having to be better in these situations. And I know that, bringing in Bart tomorrow, we may as well just bring Bart in at 9:00 instead of at 10:30 after Dylan.
Bart lives here now. This is your house now.
Yeah, I mean that's where we
Bart.
are.
You live here now.
Yeah, and that's to go through these kinds of things and process what is going on. It is it's disappointing, and it adds to other issues that need to be squared away when it comes to position players, and when it comes to your stars, when it comes to your goalkeepers, that kind of stuff. And I know a lot of folks are looking at Brad's age, and Ricky makes the point that 37, 38 goalkeepers don't age the same as field players. It's just a fact. And that's
they don't, and look, 37, 38, he could still get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
But he has put a lot of abuse. I'm sorry. He has had a lot of abuse put on that body. He's not responsible for it directly. He's had a lot of abuse put on that body in the last calendar year. And that would be my concern, personally.
Yeah.
The fact that, he's taken a lot of beatings.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you wonder how many how much contact in one body and how much rehabilitation. But I mean that is it. That is, I mean, knowing what we saw with Brad in his comeback from the Achilles injury, that Brad is going to give you 100, and Brad will probably try to push it because that's how he's wired. It's like, I want to get back. I want to get back. I want to get back. Coming off of the Achilles, having the start that he had, and now having to do with this, Brad's going to want to push it and, go 120% and try to get back in 10 weeks. But, that's, like I said, that's just how he's wired. So goalies aging different, keepers aging differently, and things like that. The biggest thing is just making sure that that you do what you're told by the physicians and the analysis and all these kinds of things, so you can get back and be 100% when you come back. Michael Head, at some point, who knows when, MLS owners will get fed up with pro and do something, or they'll just accept pro will just be bad. The issue is holding the league back.
It's been that way.
Is pro hold how I guess how much is pro holding the league back? There are a lot of other issues that are holding.
Well, I mean, to be fair, and I think every league has this conversation.
Yeah.
MLS is not the only fan base that has this conversation of, our officials are holding the league back from being better. Like, they're not the only ones that have that conversation.
Yeah. And burned on Gabe Siegel. Siegel was a total bust in Germany, couldn't even make the FC Cologne second team, which is a youth team in the 4th division. They shipped him back after a couple of months. So that's the kind of player that NYC had in there. But Emilio with a question, and I don't remember the answer, so I will put this out for common thought. Was Fisher the ref at the weird purple team match where he allowed the goalkeeper to sleep with the ball? I'm guessing basically. I don't remember.
I have no idea.
I don't remember.
The only Orlando game that lives rent free in my head.
Yeah.
Is the one where who was old boy did with Will Johnson?
Screaming Will Johnson.
Is the Will Johnson one where they lost their mind in the 3rd minute of that game.
Yes.
And they were mentally unstable the entire way and were not emotionally prepared to play in an intense game.
Yeah.
That's that one lives rent free in my head because, if for no other reason, there's a segment in that game where as he is losing his mind and fans are throwing waters on the field, Greg Garza grabs one of the waters and just drinks it.
There you go.
Just has a drink. No big deal.
Yeah. It's like, I'm good. Thanks for helping me out. The hydration is greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
people out here just doing Greg a solid, man.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. They're keeping an eye on him. But yeah, I mean, early on this morning, you got folks who want blood for blood, and props.
There's just no benefit to it, though. I mean, yeah, like, you'll feel better if you get it, but like, there's nothing good comes from it.
I mean, this isn't something where you sit there and you bring somebody in from the academy and you have them on your game day roster, you have them start, or you keep an eye on Siegel and you burn us. I mean, if Siegel is if you start individual, if you start Mr. Football number 1, masked footballer, if you start the masked footballer, then you have him out there as a part of your starting 11, and Siegel's not starting, then you got to wait and see if Siegel does start, or you don't play masked footballer number 1. Siegel starts, you burn a sub, you bring in masked footballer number 1 to take Siegel out. You've burned a window. You've probably burned a foul, if not burned a card or a red, and it's counterproductive. As much as we all want retribution, it's not something that in the game is going to help you.
No, you're more interested in doing whatever it takes to keep winning and to stay. You're top 3 in the East right now. You're more interested in staying in that situation. That's bottom line, man. You're more interested in staying top of the East.
Mm-hmm. David, any chance we get a retroactive suspension for missed red card foul on the play? I doubt it.
I doubt it. I just do. I don't think he will.
You can't do an oopsie card dump. I don't think you can do that. I don't think that you can sit there and go.
You can retroactively suspend them. You can, because it happened to Bronigo. for Charlotte 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. In the lead up to the Atlanta game, because right before Atlanta played Red Bulls, because I had said in that game, like, oh, Red Bulls, like, oh man, Red Bulls, like, it was. I think it was when they had. I think it was the foul, the Corey Burke one, where I was like, or I mentioned, like, Red Bulls are not going to feel any way about this because Red Bull should have been playing 11-on-9 against Charlotte,
absolutely,
and Pro absolutely screwed up two blatant red card offenses that would have had Charlotte down to 9 men.
Yeah.
And that game ended 1-1 with Red Bulls giving up an own goal to lose their lead in like the 85th minute.
Yep.
They were absolutely pissed off, and they had every right to be. Again, nice job, Pro.
Yep. David, I will say fining Gonzalo for his rant about protecting his goalie is going to get really awkward. I'm here for it.
Yeah. I mean,
the league has to. I think it has to. Form
has to is a strong word.
Form dictates, or form leads us to believe that in a situation like this, where a manager says something about officiating, that once again, form indicates that there will be an envelope sent or an email or a carrier pigeon or whatever from the league office to the
Please send a carrier pigeon. I would pay money for that.
So, well, here, what you do is if there's a fine if there's an envelope sent to the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground, then you send the fine back. You don't send it via Venmo, but you send it via carrier pigeon. Yeah, it'll get there eventually. We sent it. We sent it. Here's proof. Here's the video. Carrier pigeon holding a big envelope headed your way. Here's social media.
Please make this as Bugs Bunny as possible.
Oh, absolutely. Social media posts it. It's like you see a falconer in the back of the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. It's like, all right, so here's the envelope, and it's got MLS's address on it to New York City, and then the falconer releases the bird and from the training ground and the envelope, and they both fly away. It's coming. We promise. We cut you a check. It's right there. Follow your progress. He's got a GPS device.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. That's the it is going to get, or BAM. I like this. BAM says send in the fine in pennies.
Yeah.
That would be pretty sweet if you did that. But then, the shipping cost might, or what you do. Here's what you do. You send the fine in pennies, but you only put a couple of pennies in each envelope. And you mail them that way instead of like one big container, like a big jar of, like X thousands of dollars in pennies.
Just send them an equivalent gift card for an equivalent value gift card for only stamps.com.
Yes.
Foreverstamps.com.
Right. And so BAM is suggesting A-League refs for some games, burned South American referees would make more sense from a money standpoint. Wile E. Coyote, make it a literal cast and seal the pennies in it, and so they could kind of break it like a piñata. You've got Parsival reply with a bill for the pay that you have to allocate for Brad's recovery. Yeah, here's the medical bills. Here, we'll send this to you as well. A lot of imaginative stuff in trying to figure this out, but and BAM had made this point. Does the MLS bring over English Championship or League One refs when they finish their season? No, but they probably should. There should be some kind of work share agreement with other leagues so Pro can understand how other countries operate and how other countries can come here and see how the United States operates. I think that there should be some kind of commonality when it comes to having officials understand how other parts of the world operate. I think that would be. I think it would be beneficial for Pro. I think it would be beneficial for officials in general whether you're, refs, ARs, AVARs, or VARs, what have you. I think it would be beneficial to have some kind of a work share program with South America because of all of the recent additions of players from South America. If you had some kind of a work share with South American referee organizations to where MLS and Pro would go to South America, South American officials would come up to work in MLS, I think that kind of a work share would be really beneficial to seeing how the other half lives and how other guys call matches and things like that. I think it'd be an interesting test case too.
Yeah, perhaps. It's, I don't know, man. The whole thing is like, it's more complicated than just Brad Guzan's injury.
True, it is.
As much as like that's our firing point right now.
Right.
That is what we have in the kiln. But it's more complicated than that because talked about, Kansas City fans are irate right now because Alan Polito, who cannot stay healthy, is getting stepped on and no punishment. And they're singing the same refrain that Atlanta fans have sang and other fans have sang around the league of, why the hell are you not protecting the stars?
Yeah.
Why are you so inconsistent about it?
Yeah.
And so I don't know the answer to that. Like, I don't know why. And see, I've had this question with VAR in baseball as well, where you have a replay system where if you're not going to use it efficiently to make the right to make the changes that need to be made, to address the fouls that need to be looked at, then why do you have it?
Yeah.
You getting it right every once in a while is great because there are a lot worse things. But it's got to be more than just every once in a while. Like, I mean, and I get it. No one is 100% perfect, but it feels like when they do miss these, a lot of times they have more heavy consequences than they should be.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so that's where we are here. You're in a situation where there is a systemic issue that needs to be addressed, and the key is to try to figure out how you address it. And does the referee organization want to take whatever steps are necessary to address this issue? I mean, it seems at face value, it's like flipping a light switch. It's like, take care of your stars, take care of your keepers. Light switch is on, you take care of these individuals. Light switch is off, you're not. But I think that it's a systemic thing because it's not just center F not making a call. It's VAR not doing anything in concert to sit there and look at a situation and figure out if there is an alternative to what was or was not done on the field. So it seems more systemic when it comes to trying to figure out what you're trying to address and advance the league and the state of referees. Burn. I think Wayne Rooney's correct. If you say something like Atlanta's done, they'll retaliate against you. That whole group is a joke. They never admit to their mistakes.
Nope. But I mean, there's never really been any punishments. So
yeah, and so why should,
and especially not a public punishment.
Yeah, why should I change who I am and what my approach is if I am beyond reproach? If there is no punishment, if there is no addressing of an issue, why should I change? Because frankly, my situation's great right now. I have no one to be accountable to, or no one who wants to be accountable to me and call me to the carpet. Because like I said, I cannot remember, short of an official being pulled off of a VAR assignment last year, where you saw someone disappear from the job role. And I think it was like a couple of weeks. And I wish I remembered who it was. But it was one of the senior officials that was in VAR. And I will still maintain separately and apart from this, that's where your senior officials who no longer can keep up with the action on the field, they all need to be trained and be your VARs.
So, and here's the other thing about this, then this is the part that they're going to have to figure out. amongst others. As sports leagues get more in bed with gambling companies, you can't have these moments.
Yeah. No.
You cannot.
No.
Because when you start putting money on the line,
Yeah.
you have to. Like,
Yeah.
you have to find you have to get it right. You absolutely have to get it right, because as more of these companies more of these leagues get involved with gambling, you know, they absolutely have to get everything correct, because there's so much money on the line.
Yeah. And Nix comes in and he says, can we talk about Rooney for a minute? He is implying the refs are now reffing against his team because of comments.
You want some black helicopter, by the way?
Yeah.
I had that. I had that belief, and I know others who did as well. Not insanely stupid black helicopter, but about Budenholzer when he was head coach of the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Budenholzer had a situation where he got into it with an official, and there was physical contact between them, and they were both at fault. They were both absolutely acting like children.
Right.
The league did not suspend Budenholzer. I think both of them got fined and both of them got punished, but neither one of them got suspended. And if I'm not mistaken, it was after that where it felt like a lot of calls went against Atlanta.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of black helicopter that Atlanta was getting screwed because of the Budenholzer situation.
And once again, it is not, there's always, when you are a fan, there are always those times and those situations that, you're going to sit there and go, maybe I'm thinking. And Turner.
Angel Hernandez is a special case.
Yeah.
Because he is without a doubt one of, if not the worst officials that baseball has ever put on the field.
Well, you got Country Joe and Eric Gregg. I know that those two are always...
Eric Gregg was at least had a reputation for being a very fun guy. The missed the issue in the shootout, the issue in the playoff game outstanding. I'm thinking soccer again.
That's all right.
But Eric Gregg at least had the reputation of being kind of a fun, jovial guy who everyone had fun with. He goofed off with the Philly Fanatic, all that.
Yeah.
Who just had one of the worst games you could possibly have. Angel Hernandez, no one likes him.
Yeah.
The man tried to sue, claiming racial discrimination because he wasn't picked to do a playoff game. And I think the league's response to him was no, we didn't pick you because you're one of the very worst at your job, and not only that, you make everything a confrontation, which he does.
Yeah. And then Parsival, to your point, where we have, we maintain taking your senior officials that know the game and move them to your VARs instead of having younger officials there. Parsival feels that moving a problem to a new place, if refs not calling the fouls on pitch get moved to VAR. What I would maintain, Parsival, is this: aside from not calling fouls, what you have, I think that if you had your more senior officials, once they can't log the miles and they can't keep up with the game, and there's the thought that if you had a second center ref and things like that, like what they did with basketball, I think that if you took those senior officials, move them upstairs, you would remove the idea of a junior official not wanting to challenge a senior official from a VAR perspective. Because the last thing you want to do, if you are a younger official, is, you first off, you're thinking, I got to keep my job. So if I see something, I may not say something because you don't want to get in the books with the senior officials as, someone who's a boat rocker. Oh, he's really challenging things. He's really pushing stuff when he's a VAR, those kinds of things. You want to keep your job, so you're going to be silent. I would think that the more senior officials, if you move them up to VAR once they can't keep up with the action that they're running around and being a part of on the field, I think that at least gives you, evening of voices when it comes to video assistant referee with officials down on the field. Guys that you've worked with for years, at least you're going to have peer-to-peer conversation as opposed to someone who's young, wants to break in, wants to keep his gig, and isn't going to rock the boat. So that's why I think moving those senior officials up, I'm not looking at it as moving a problem and shifting them, to a desk job, taking somebody out of the field and moving them to a desk job. I'm trying to sit there and hopefully have these conversations of peer-to-peer when it comes to addressing problems and things like that. So that's the rationale behind taking those senior officials and moving them upstairs. So that way you're not having guys that aren't going to rock the boat when it comes to, I don't know, I see something here, but he's a senior official. Do I challenge him? Do I come across as, button in? Those kinds of things. So that's where that's coming from, Parcel.
Yeah, and there is like a sense of, I am a junior official. That guy is much more senior. Do I challenge him? How do I do it in a respectful manner? You got to do your job. That's the bottom line. You have to do your job.
Yeah. And Ricky is in, and he goes, the hope with specialization leads to more familiarity and accuracy as well. Bam, if you move the senior officials to VAR, the up-and-coming officials have to be AVAR so they can work with the senior ones. Absolutely. No, I think that's what you do, is that you have the AVARs, especially those who just want to be VAR. There are folks that, they don't want to go out in the field. They're cool staring at monitors. They get it. They understand what's going on. If you have a senior official who is off the field and now VAR, you can have them be impactful to the younger officials who just want to be VAR. They don't want to go outside. They want to work that track. So, Bam, to your point, I think that there's also some availability there as well to assist younger officials to see, okay, do you want to be a VAR? You get to learn from a senior official. Or if being a VAR isn't your bag, then you can figure out how to learn from that VAR and from the other officials that you're part of a crew with. So that's where I'm looking at it when it comes to the specialization and having, those senior officials upstairs. We've cleared the top of the hour. So in accordance with protocols, it is time to sit there and read a promo. Jared, how much longer are you with us, by the way?
I'm here for the promo, and I'm here to discuss something that looks like it might be hitting my inbox in a second.
Okay, so here we go. So it's time to read the promo and make sure that I hit the proper music. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminized Service. Proud sponsors of everything SDH. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Eliminized Service deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminized Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. So very, very kind to the environment. We like that. A very green way of going about things, getting rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our other favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard. Because when you reach below the sink or above you in the cupboard, you take out the masking agent, you spray it in the air. That's why they call it a masking agent. You're just masking the odors. You're not attacking the problem like our friends at Eliminize do with their proven scientific formula, destroying odor down to the molecule. Pricing very, very easy, one of two ways. Either bet the cubic foot or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, go to the website. This is where I grab my pen. For those of you watching on Twitch, your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com, and then add /Atlanta after the .com. So it's ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, Eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air, Eliminized Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH, where we've got a lot of Tuesday thoughts Trust me, we got a lot of Tuesday thoughts, and thanks to everybody who has been Tuesday thinking. Jared, as he mentioned, he's here for one other item before he goes. And, it'd be nice if I actually gave the volume for the story as it deserves. Hang on. It'll be an interesting summer at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for more than one reason. Jarrett Smith continues.
Oh, yeah. I guess I should do this. There's Premier League announces Summer Series is heading to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And this does happen to impact most of you in the Atlanta area. And also might have something to do with why Gold Cup wasn't being played here. Premier League will stage a doubleheader at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Wednesday, July 26th. The first match will be Brentford FC and Brighton Hove Albion, slated at 5:30 p.m., followed by the return of Miguel Almiron.
Dun, da, da, da.
As Chelsea and Newcastle play at 8:15 p.m. Woo-hoo. I like how Chelsea is like the second fiddle here. This is amazing. Miggy coming home.
Yes.
If y'all can get tickets, go for it. Atlanta Falcons PSL holders and Atlanta United season ticket members will receive an email soon on their pre-sale opportunity. Tickets to all matches in the summer series will be available via Premier League pre-sale on Tuesday, April 25th. They go on sale to the general public Wednesday, April 26th. You can register for interest at www.premierleague.com/summer series. Not to be confused with SummerSlam.
No.
Although Cody Rhodes does need to make a homecoming as well.
Oh, he certainly does. Cody,
that's when the belt needs to change.
Yes.
Have it like I don't know what the next. I don't know if they've got plans to do a pay-per-view in Atlanta.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know that they have a Raw coming to Atlanta soon. I think.
But we'll do a pay-per-view in Atlanta, and have that be the night he takes the belt.
Yes, yeah. There's a Raw, I think, in July at State Farm. So that would be what you're looking at. So the clubs,
bottom line is you have Brentford and Brighton playing at 5:30, and then afterward Chelsea and Newcastle on July 26th.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, July 22 and 30, a total of 9 matches between those 9 days. Atlanta, Red Bull.
Michael, this news has my anti-friendly policy. I'm glad we could push your limits.
Yes. So it's going to be Atlanta, Harrison, New Jersey, Orlando, Philadelphia, Landover, Maryland, July 22 to the 30th. Richard Masters has a quote. Dan Corso has a quote. Dan Corso's quote, thrilled to bring 4 of the world's premier soccer clubs to compete in Atlanta as a part of this very special event. We believe our city is the country's top destination to hold international sporting events. Look forward to continuing to work with our partners locally and with the English Premier League to create a remarkable experience for all involved. In addition, this event fits nicely with our city's continued preparation to host the FIFA World Cup 2026, provide tremendous exposure for the matches being broadcast, 880 million homes, and 180 countries. So you have a quote from Garth Lagerwey, quote from ACVB President and CEO William Pate, quote from AMBSC President Tim Zalowski, and the summer series as it kicks off. July 22 at the Link, Chelsea and Brighton. Sunday at the Link, doubleheader, Fulham, Brentford, Newcastle, Villa. Then you've got the Wednesday doubleheader here in Atlanta. Also going on simultaneously at Exploria, it is Fulham and Aston Villa. Friday the 28th, Brighton and Newcastle. Sunday the 30th at FedEx Field, it is Villa, Brentford, Chelsea, Fulham. So that's your doubleheaders right there. So the Premier League announces the summer series is heading to Atlanta. So there you go. Now, once again, as Jarrett said, it is season ticket holders and PSL holders for the Falcons, Atlanta United season ticket members getting an email on their pre-sale. Tickets, Summer Series, Premier League pre-sale Tuesday, April 25. Go on sale to the general public on the 26th. PremierLeague.com/Summer Series. Register to hear more about supporting events in the area as well as updates. First time the league has hosted a preseason tournament in the United States. So there you go. Premier League Summer Series, part of the league's ongoing commitment to its U.S.-based fans. And yes, I'm reading from the release. In addition to the tournament, league will work closely with a range of grassroots and community organizations in East Host City to create a program of community and youth soccer initiatives. Tournament builds on the success of the 8 Premier League Mornings Live Fan Festival events in the Premier League and its broadcast partner, NBC, that have hosted since 2018. The events have seen more than 60,000 fans. And I'm going to tell you what. Why in the wide world of sports has that network not had one of their fan fests at Centennial Olympic Park? Or shutting down Buckhead and having it at Fido? Premier League Fan Fest on Peacock and NBC needs to be in Atlanta. You shut down Centennial Olympic Park for something like that. You block off Buckhead on a Saturday morning. The folks that were there from Friday night, Jarrett, would be staying for Saturday morning. Then you get the doubleheader, and everything happens on that Saturday until about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Then the folks that were there for the Premier League, for Premier League Live, they hang out in Buckhead for Saturday night. Then it starts all over again on Sunday morning. So Buckhead could have expanded hours and expanded business if you just shut down Buckhead for the Premier League Fan Fest. NBC, this is your shot to sit here and look at Atlanta and go, we need to have our Premier League Fan Fest there. We need to tour and be in Atlanta. This is your shot.
Just go out there and try and put College Game Day to shame.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what you do. You try. You do it in a way that, like, as people are walking up to it, they're just thinking, that College Game Day doesn't do anything like this. Just make it passive aggressive. Always make it passive aggressive, please. Do it.
Bless their hearts.
And you get bonus points if you don't use Big and Rich.
Yeah. Well, I think that, could you imagine the Premier League Fan Fest or the Summer Series Fan Fest, or just the Summer Series as a setup for the Premier League Fan Fest, and what you could have done, and who you could bring in, all of the fans. I mean, you could bring in Will Turpin for Collective Soul. You could have Collective Soul as a part of this. That is an absolute no-brainer. All of the activity that you could have. Yeah, Cody Rhodes definitely has to happen. No question about it. Cody Rhodes has to drive the Spike close to July and SummerSlam.
You have to wait for Cody to do it until he takes the belt, though.
Yeah.
And I don't know when they plan on doing that. They are slow burning the living hell out of his story.
Yeah, a lot of that might be tied to Vince McMahon trying to sit there and say, "Oh, you're coming from AEW, and I'm just going to bury you because." So there you go.
Yeah, it's also Dusty's boy, though.
Yeah, and that's true.
It's Dusty's boy, and Dusty, never forget, Vince tried to embarrass Dusty by putting him in the polka dots, and Dusty turned it into a thing.
That's exactly true.
Yeah, you gotta wait for Cody to take the belt and then have him come drill the Spike.
Yes.
But you have to do it with the belt, which will be impressive because those belts are not light.
Yes. So that would be fun to have once Cody becomes champion. My guess is they try to get Roman to 1,000 days just as something symbolic, and then they'll.
I think I broke Will when I did this, but my favorite thing would be for Roman to get to his limit, and then for UGA to hold the national title for one day further, and just put Georgia Tech fans in hell.
Oh.
Hey, Roman's got the longest reign ever. He clears however many days. And then UGA just comes in and holds the national title for one day more.
Yes. It's like, by the way, we're still champion. You've got everybody in Athens holding up 3 fingers and doing it like that, 3 fingers and hi, we've done it for longer than you have. But no, that would be that'd be pretty funny and it'd be very college football. This is very college football friendly. David mentions Manchester United or someone had a trophy display meet and greet at the West End MARTA stop 5 or so years ago, because I think they were, whatever team it was, they were plowing through. Michael Head's in trouble. Conversation with Ricky. It's going to be hard for me to spend actual cash for a match that doesn't count. However, the boss loves both Miggy and Chelsea. So you probably can get a session ticket. And what I also wonder, this has to be full house, doesn't it? They're not just going to do the lower bowl at 43. They're going to open up the whole thing, aren't they?
I think you could open up the whole thing, and you would just get Atlanta fans simply because Miguel was coming back.
Oh, absolutely. That second match.
You could open the whole. You could open up 70,000+, and they would show up for Miguel. There will be many onions being cut when Newcastle takes the field and Miguel Almiron takes the field. There might be onions being cut around Miguel Almiron when Miguel Almiron takes that field. It will be a very cool moment.
Yeah. What is the longest ovation? And like I said, this is getting into Sami Zayn territory, so I apologize if this is Wrestling Down Here, which, by the way, you can follow on Twitter at Wrestling Down Here. What is the longest ovation? And I'll put this out for the Twitch pitch. What's the longest ovation that anyone has ever gotten in Mercedes-Benz Stadium history in a sporting event?
Ooh, I have no idea.
So it probably would be safe to say, as Niall says, the prodigal son has returned.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, and Ricky will be wearing his Miggy kit. You will have so many Almiron kits for that 8:15 match. You will get a record. Well, I mean, Michael, what if Miggy doesn't play and CFC plays their academy? Would you get a refund? I don't think so. I think you'd get a session ticket. And I think BAM, they would do separate tickets. If you wanted to see one, you wanted to see the other, but you could probably get a session ticket for cheap. For a discounted rate. I think what you will have is your Sami Zayn at Molson Center moment when Miggy, even if he doesn't play, if Miggy comes out for a cameo, but Miggy's got to start. I mean, even if it's a quick one to roll through. But I think that Miggy gets the longest ovation of any athlete ever in the history of Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
For now.
When Newcastle returns for that nightcap in the middle of July. Because remember, you're also you're in Leagues Cup at that point. So I think the night before, Atlanta United in Leagues Cup is in Fort Lauderdale playing in Leagues Cup. So that match will have been completed the night before. All of the old guard for Atlanta United will be home to see Miguel Almiron and Newcastle in that nightcap at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So, and Bam has a point. Miggy gets subbed on and comes in from the rafters via harness. He's calling for the HBK intro.
Oh God, hey man, the rafters at Mercedes-Benz are not close.
No, they're not.
You're dodging traffic out of PDK with those things.
Yeah. So, but then what do you do? You sit there and there's, oh my God, there's Miggy's music. One of those moments when he gets
Ricky. If Joseph is in the building that night, I have a lot of questions because Atlanta's going to be playing Miami in Leagues Cup.
Yeah, the night before.
Joseph feels like if Joseph is in the building, he might be, but I want to know how that game's going to go first.
Yeah.
Because who was it who just touched on? Oh, David just touched on it. Phil Neville has not been holding back against Joseph, who, man, he doesn't look like himself.
No. Was it 6 matches in a row now that he hasn't scored?
6 matches he hasn't scored. He hasn't moved the same way. He's not getting the service that has made him so good for so long. And yeah, it's been rough to watch. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, and Joseph was called out. DeAndre Yedlin was called out. There were, I think, another couple of players as well that that Coach Neville was less than pleased with their efforts. But I mean, man, you look at Inter Miami right now, and the standings in the East, where you've got Inter Miami, they're below the playoff bar. In 7 matches, they have 6 points. They are 2-5. They have not drawn a match this year. They are 2-5. It is one or the other. And in those 7 matches, they have scored a total of 6 goals. Less than a goal per match, even though Drake Callender has only given up 8 in 7 matches. So his goals against is quickly 1.14. But Miami, 6 goals scored. They are, I mean, but the thing is, in the East, when you look at the number of goals that have been scored, it is, I mean, it's all over the place. It literally is all over the place when it comes to goals scored. Columbus has scored 17. Atlanta is second in the East in goals scored with 14. New England has 12. They're the only 3 that are in double digits. Because then you have, I mean, you've got Montreal's only scored 3. They've given up 16 goals in 6 matches this year. See if Montreal possibly impacts sooner rather than later. Probably never at this rate. But Montreal's given up 16 goals in 6 matches. You want to talk hot seat? I mean, Niall has mentioned Neville on a hot seat. What about Hernan Losada? Hernan Losada and Montreal, and we all know that Joey Saputo is a very calm individual.
Joey Saputo fragged himself here. Joey Saputo had a really good team, one of the best managers at doing more with less in the league, and found a way to torpedo that relationship. His manager then left to Columbus, who is just doing great. And really, ever since the Atlanta game, have been, like, even before that Atlanta game, they were showing flashes of, oh, this could be something fun, a little ahead of schedule. We didn't expect what they did against Atlanta or what they did against, I think it was RSL they beat.
Yeah.
But yeah, you lost that guy, and like Joey Saputo he tried to swing a bayonet and somehow impaled his own thigh.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's for Joey Saputo. My sympathies are with the Montreal fans, who are awesome and who are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And who are smart. They know when they're getting shortchanged by their owner. And now he's in a situation where they are an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And like, man, Hernan Losada, it didn't work in DC. And look, the DC thing may not be as cut and dry as, you know, as we want to think it is, because the Losada thing in DC, there's always layers to that sort of he said, she said.
No doubt.
And the truth always lies somewhere in between.
Correct.
So it probably wasn't as, you know, clean cut as some may be expecting with the whole thing with DC United. But it wasn't working on the field. It doesn't appear to be working on the field in Montreal either.
No. And I know we're kind of bouncing around here in hour number 2. David, the Montreal performance alone should get Wilfred Nancy Coach of the Year in 2023. Now
he should have had it last year.
Yeah, you should have. Michael Head, pretend EPL games at FedEx. Yeah, Ricky mentions that they're playing Premier League matches at FedEx. They're doing, now get this, those matches at FedEx. Let me go back to the release really quickly here. All right, so matches at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. Sunday afternoon in Landover, Maryland in late July. Noon kick, 2:45 kick. What do you think Aston Villa and Brentford fans are going to be thinking about trekking to Raljon for a noon kick in late July at FedEx? It is going to be 9 gazillion degrees.
Just a reminder that DC is basically all swamp. So you're gonna have humidity.
It is going to be nice because I don't with matching humidity on that day.
For those of you who don't know, if you've never been to DC, or for BAM, if you're still listening, if you've never been here domestically, Washington DC, not unlike Disney World, is basically built on a swamp.
Yeah.
It is incredibly hot and humid and miserable, and it's just a bog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's that.
So yeah.
You got a bunch of people, because I can tell you, as someone who was in Orlando last week, taking their kid on adventures, there was a disproportionate number of Englishmen and English families there. You know how you can tell that they're English? Because they don't know how sunscreen works efficiently.
Oh,
they did not do the whole reapplying sunscreen thing. So yeah, that's
yeah.
You saw a lot of lobsters.
Whoa. Montreal, David, has lost 2 in a row. They started the season 0-3. They won against Philly in that crazy game where they scored late and then they scored at 90+, and Jim Curtin got mad, film at 11. And then they've lost their last 2. They've lost their last 2 matches 9-0, both on the road, at Vancouver, at New England, losing 5-0 at Vancouver, losing 4-0 at New England. And, I mean, outside, and the thing is, the goals that they've scored this year, they've only scored goals in that match that they won against Philly. Shut out in their first 3. They beat Philly 3-2 at the Big O, then shut out in their last 2, 9-0, not scoring. So when they've won, they've scored. When they've lost, they haven't. Literally, that is it. The one win, they scored. The 5 that they've lost, they have not scored. I mean, we talk hot seat. I know that folks are also, since we're on hot seat this morning, it is a hot seat Tuesday. I guess, FedEx Field, hot seat there too. I think Bam was mentioning Greg Vanney with Galaxy fans on Twitter and LAG exploding. Vanney said that the loss was embarrassing to the brand. Not wrong. Losing at Houston 3-0. But yeah, they started out their year with a loss. They drew 3 in a row, and now they've lost 2 in a row. So, I mean, Vanney's three losses and 3 draws in 6 matches, because remember the season kickoff, El Tráfico was pushed back now to July 4th because of the weather in Southern California. I think it was snow and floods on opening weekend, and so El Tráfico got pushed back to July 4th. So they've only played 6 matches. But, yeah, I mean, Vanney is also one of those. Sorry, David. Let me double check. Miami. Yes, you are correct, David. 5. So that's on me. I was looking at an M. So, yeah, they have lost. Miami has lost 5 in a row. And they have only scored in one of those games. Beating Montreal, beating Philly, both by 2-0. So that was 4 of the goals that they've scored. At NYC, they lose 1-0. At Toronto, lose 2-0. Home to Chicago, lose 3-2. At Cincy, 1-0 loss. Dallas losing 1-0. So in those 5 losses, they've only scored the 2 goals because they scored 4 in their 2 wins. So, yeah, Miami has lost 5 in a row. And I can understand why Phil Neville is pissed, because with the lack of output, he should be.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, is Neville hot seat? Vanney, I would say, is Vanney hot seat? Is Losada hot seat? What are we staring at here? I mean, you got coaches. I mean, Peter Vermes is not.
Man, but at what point is he?
I know
Peter Vermes is an institution, but at what point is he, though?
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been like and the thing is, like, it's this thing we do where, like, we set these standards and narratives nationally and even regionally sometimes, where it's we decide that sometimes if somebody's creating a bunch of chances, that you're just waiting for it to come true, and other times we do that, and it's a sign of we're not waiting for it to come. We're not waiting for it to come good necessarily.
Right.
That's just they don't know how to finish, and they can get in position but they can't finish, that sort of thing. And we just decide those narratives.
Yeah.
And then we don't like to change those narratives. We being the royal we in this situation.
Yes, royal.
But they are very much in that category right now. You have to figure out, like, yeah, they're actually creating chances. Are they good enough to actually finish those chances? Because right now, doesn't feel like it.
Yep. Yeah, so that's you got coaches that are there. From Ricky. Opta 5. Inter Miami, the second team in MLS history to lose 5 straight matches immediately after collecting 6 points from their first 2. Chicago Fire in 1998, including 1 breakaway shootout loss. So that ain't good. Yeah, Bam, as the LAFC fan in this discussion, says he's just waiting for someone to depart mutually from LAG.
Man, LAG is just a meme.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I've seen like they are like Matt Doyle called it, like they are basically a meme at this point, and it's pretty damn pathetic.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, I think I said this yesterday. However bad you think it was in Atlanta, in 2021, 2022, man, at least you have seemed to have figured, like, you made overhauls to the roster. You're getting production from guys who are growing. Franco Ibarra is taking those steps in his development. That and it's one of those things, like, that annoys me about that discussion, because those things don't just magically happen. Like, when you get those moments of development, like, it's not like he was a bad player and then wasn't a good player and then just magically became good. Like, he developed. It's what you were hoping to see from him. You were hoping to see those moments from him that were so good at Argentinos Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it could be so much worse, because you could be the Galaxy. Yeah,
you could. You could absolutely be the Galaxy. Also on the board, we still have not. You see, because everything has been rolling around. So Emilio has got his order: Losada, Vanny, Neville. So that's what he's saying. Bam says that LAG fans are saying on Twitter they're waiting for AEG to move the team.
That seems extreme.
That's very extreme. That's not going to happen. No, AEG knows that you can't. That you're in the number one market. You're a legacy club. That's not going to happen.
Come on, man. They're a legacy club.
Yeah.
They're not going to move the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Okay, and if they do, then I will sit here with an amazing amount of egg on my face.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we'll both share the same omelet. We have not even, because of everything going on this morning, we still have not even talked about the update out of New Jersey.
What was the update out of New Jersey?
Well, I mean, last night.
Oh, racism down here.
Yeah, racism down here. We had the statements come out, and Red Bull addressed, and those are the words that I'm going to use.
They put out 3 statements, and all 3 of them were varying degrees of not great.
Yeah, it was corporate, and a triple. So Red Bulls come out with 3 paragraphs. Wholeheartedly apologize for the unacceptable events that transpired. Words and inaction was inexcusable. Probably were inexcusable. And we believe there is never a place for it. Always strive for an environment that is inclusive and anti-racist. Our organization is committed to providing the resources to further educate our players and staff, as well as rebuilding trust within our community. Dante Van Zier. I want to sincerely apologize to the players of the Earthquakes. I will do everything I can to be part of the change that needs to happen in this sport and our world. I also want to apologize to my teammates, coaches, the organization, and our fans. I made a mistake and will take all the necessary steps to grow. I accept full responsibility for my actions. While I did not intend to cause any harm or offense with my language, I know that I did, and for that I'm deeply sorry. I will agree to any suspension, fine, and counseling that is handed down by Major League Soccer and the club. I will use this opportunity to better myself, reflect, and dedicate my time and efforts to work with organizations that tackle racial injustice. Gerhard Struber. During our match on Saturday, I made a decision that I thought was best given the information I had at that moment. While there was a lot of uncertainty at the time with the information that I now know, the right decision would have been to immediately remove Dante Van Zier from the game.
Okay, so let's talk about something real quick.
Yeah,
because I do want to hit on something because I do have to leave soon.
Okay.
Based on what we saw, from a lot of the screen grabs, a lot of the clips we've seen, the one that sticks out is the Red Bulls goalkeeper coming out and talking to Gerhard Struber.
Yeah, Carlos Coronel. And
Coronel's talking to him in a very demonstrative way.
Right.
Coronel's very animated when he talks to him.
Yeah.
What I don't know is what was said.
Right, because there was no audio that was attached to this clip.
Yeah.
You see hand movements, and you see Coronel talking with Struber. You see Van Zier off to camera right, looking at the conversation and listening as to what was going on. There's no audio attached to it.
Yeah, Emilio, this is exactly what I'm getting at. What I want to know what Coronel said. I'd love someone to ask him straight up. Hey, what did you say?
Yeah.
Because if he is saying, hey, we need him to stay on, that's one thing. If Coronel is saying, I know what he said, you have to take him off, and Gerhard Struber did not take him off, then you got to look real damn hard at your employment situation. Before that clip came out, without seeing that, it was one of those things where if he asked Van Zier, hey, did you say something? And if Van Zier said no, without any proof, you kind of have to go with your player because you can cripple that relationship, absolutely obliterate that relationship and obliterate that trust.
Right.
If he had other people telling him, I don't care what he said, I heard what he said, it wasn't okay, you have to take him off, and you still don't take him off, if he lied to you and you got other people saying he's lying to you, you have to take him off, and you don't take him off, then, I mean, that feels like a lot of lost of trust of my manager.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be really tough to play for that manager if that's the situation. If Van Zier told him straight up, I didn't say anything, but everyone else came up to him on both sides because we know Luchi Gonzalez told him, you should take him off, and he didn't do it immediately. If other teammates are telling him, you need to take him off because of what he said, and he didn't do it, then you got to take a long, hard look if you're Red Bulls about Gerhard Struber being your manager going forward.
And
full stop.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how good he is.
Yeah.
If you had multiple people telling you, he said this, he said something that needs to be off the field, which, again, it's without hearing the audio from the goalkeeper talking demonstrably. But given the situation, I feel like it's really easy to think that's what he's telling him is, you need to take him off.
Right.
If that's the case and he didn't do it, then you got to look real damn hard about Gerhard Struber being the manager of your club, because I would have, aside from the racial implications of it, which are numerous and which are the lead, the LEDE lead. And beyond that, I would be terrified if I was a general manager looking at that saying, oh my God, this guy just ignored half his team.
Yeah.
Not all of whom are white, by the way. And I'd be completely expecting him to not be the manager at that point, honestly, because that is going to potentially cripple chemistry within that team.
Yep.
And it's just, if that's the thing, if he was being told by multiple people, including his own team, because it wasn't until late last night that we saw the goalkeeper clip, or that I saw it anyway. Y'all might have seen it before me. That changed a lot for me, because if it's just if he's only talking to Van Zier and Van Zier saying, I didn't think I said anything bad, and you got to trust your guy. But if you got people on your team and the other team telling you he did say something, you got to do something about it. Otherwise, you can't be my manager.
Yep. And so once again, I mean, there is a night, Bam. Glad you were with us for as long as you were. And there was the one clip that came out with audio, and it was in the 65th minute, I believe.
Emilio, I agree with you. Like, given what we've seen, I think it's I and John, I don't know how you feel about this, and I'll take my leave in just a moment.
Yeah.
If you asked me, like, straight up, I would think that, like, I would honestly think that, like, that Gerhard Struber is not going to be managing this team for much longer.
Yeah.
I don't know when you would make that decision. Ideally, I think you would love to do it during an international break.
Yeah.
Which sucks that you just had one, but I think you would love to do it during that, so you could have time on the training ground to kind of, for lack of a better word, heal a bit
and reintegrate and figure out what you're going to do with whomever your new manager is at that point. Yeah, you need that time to build through. There was the one clip that did have audio, and like I said, I want to say it was in the 60. And I was trying to find it last night, and play-by-play and color are they're parsing through the situation. You hear Luchi Gonzalez having a conversation with Gerhard Struber off of the sideline microphone. And Luchi Gonzalez is trying to convince Gerhard Struber to remove the player, who we now know as Dante Van Zier, from play. Take him off the field. It was 15 minutes in game time, not 15 minutes in clock time, but 15 minutes in game time. I want to say it was 70. I think it was, I think the incident happened, and I think there was another 15 minutes or 17 minutes or so in match time that Van Zier was still on the field before he was pulled. That's the only audio we have of anything, is a conversation with Luchi Gonzalez and Gerhard Struber about removing the player from the field. And Luchi Gonzalez said the entire time that when it came to the 21 minutes of stoppage, that if my players decided to walk at that point, I was with them. Whatever they decided was what we were going to do.
100%. And it looked. I think it was Jeremy Obobasi that said, he tried to make it clear he wasn't saying it to anyone. He just said it out loud. Which, Jesus Christ, why? First of all, look, I don't know, like, if we have like a good racial sensitivity training system within MLS for players who come in from Europe. But if there's not, man, or even if there is, apparently y'all got to escalate that damn thing.
Well, and at the same time, Van Zier came in late. It was not Van Zier came in, and it was, I think Van Zier came in late in training camp. So basically, you're fast tracking him to integrate into your team dynamic in the first place on the field. What happens off the field? Like I said, I don't know what the integration process is for DPs that come in from outside this hemisphere. Burned. Red Bull management in Europe heard about the incident and said, these guys are all apologizing or they're gone tomorrow. They don't care about the money. They don't want negative publicity at any cost. They'll fire Struber in a second if some of this stuff really happened. And true, Niall.
I think that's why I don't think he's going to be there for much longer.
Right.
And especially if he ignored if he ignored the pleas of his own goalkeeper and his own team to keep him on, then yeah, man, you can't. Like, that's you. I know if you don't believe one of your players, if he says he didn't do it and you don't believe him, it can wreck that relationship.
Right.
But if you got the rest of your team, you got other players on your team, guys who have been there longer, coming up and potentially saying, hey, you got to take him off, and you don't do it, well, you're going to wreck it there too. I mean, It's a really weird situation to be in, but you got to do something. Yep. You can't just sit there and you can't just sit on it. You're going to piss everybody off.
Yep. And I mean, that's where we are,
Yeah, Niall's right. It needs South American and European both. It's a different world.
Yeah. And by the way, for those that, as a sidebar, and right, it has to be anyone from outside this hemisphere, Niall, that is coming in that needs to understand sensitivities and such.
You would like to think that people are already not going to be absolute piles of trash with their language and
Yeah.
not using hate speech.
Yep.
You would like to think that's going to be a thing anyway. But at the bare minimum, if you do that, if you put them through that, and I don't care if he came in late to preseason, you find a time to put it. You tell him one day, hey,
Yeah.
I know you had a tough day of training. You're not going to be able to go out to dinner tonight because you have to stay and do this.
Yeah.
You have to stay and do this sort of training with us.
Absolutely.
You have to get that done because if and when this happens, and we've had 2 instances allegedly in the last calendar year now with the Taxi. Well, so I think the Taxi Fontes one just kind of petered out. I don't think there was no punishment, no charges brought on it. If and when it happens, you don't ever want it to, but after you put them through that training, it makes it much easier to say bye forever or for an extended period of time of the rules.
Yep. One note that we failed to mention involving the matches at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and there's for the Premier League doubleheader. First time natural grass pitch will be installed at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, by the way.
Be a good run up for the World Cup.
Yep, so this is a bit of a dress rehearsal, and so when Dan Corso mentioned that's a bit of a run up for the World Cup, first time a natural grass pitch will be installed at Mercedes-Benz. So we'll see how that happens there. So, grass at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So looking forward to that. Also, I mean, honestly, Abby, there's got to be a checklist. Who took the course and when? It's got to be completed before they play in a match. Emilio, absolutely. I mean, it's got to be something that's done for every player across the board. You can't just sit there and say, well, you're local. You can't take this. No, there has to be training all across the board for something like this. So, So, I mean, it's we're waiting to hear what's going on with Red Bull and what their investigation is going to bring to the fore, what MLS's investigation is going to bring to the fore. Once again, there are things we don't know. We can sit there and look all day at a clip that has no audio and look at hand gestures and try to extrapolate what was being said. But bottom line is, there's only so much that can be rolled into it. Ricky doing the grass math. Last match before Leagues Cup starts is July 15, basically 10 days before the games. So you would hope that that the installation, I don't know what timetables are for these kinds of things. Is it going to be a pie plate? Is it going to be rolled out? What kind of traffic is going to be on top of it, just to kind of test it out and see what happens? But we'll see. Ricky, you're not the only one. I bet you Mercedes-Benz Stadium is just as equally curious, if not more so, with you about the grass, the conversion, how it holds, what it's going to look like, how it's going to be maintained, and what it's going to do with the infrastructure at Mercedes-Benz. So we'll take a peek at it, and it literally is going to be an interesting process when it comes to the grass. Yeah, well, Abby, they probably will, and it will be cameras. Abby's looking for a time lapse. David, and that's the thing. Better than the NYCFC Yankee Stadium sod, because in those baseball stadium conversions, and you have those kinds of grass/dirt elements that you're trying to cover up. I mean, Jarrett, you remember the exhibition game in Nashville at the Sounds Stadium?
Well, to be fair, wasn't that one like bogged down in rain?
Absolutely it was. It absolutely was.
Like the first goal for Atlanta or the second goal for Atlanta is a back pass.
Yeah.
That basically like goes 15 feet and stops. And Joseph Martinez just grabs it and runs.
Yeah. So, and I mean, there are also times with other stadia where you see the grass put down on the dirt infield of the baseball stadium, and the installation of the grass was uneven. So the grass that you're putting on the dirt is taller and has grown more than the grass that you have in the outfield. Therefore, when it makes contact, you'll get hiccups, you'll get bumps, all of those kinds of things with baseball stadium conversions, you're not going to get here. But I'm I am just as fascinated. What do they do with the turf? Does it, do you roll it up? Where do you put it? All of those kinds of things. Michael says, I know it'll be better than when they put grass in the dome for the Gold Cup. That grass was just awful. That was bad. That was pretty bad. But you learn from these kinds of things, and you know that the folks at Mercedes-Benz, when they put that grass in there, it is going to be an exercise in horticultural expansion like we have never seen. They are going to invest so much manpower and thought into this because of what they're looking to do for the World Cup in 2026. That it is going to be one of those things that it's going to be fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it runs. And so, no, it will be grass at Mercedes-Benz for the Premier League doubleheader. Really looking forward to it. So, yeah, I mean, Abby's like they're going to have it like the grass at the training ground. So we'll see. But like I said, the conversion, the removal, the conversion, the implementation, and how it behaves, you are going to have what? I mean, you're probably going to have scientific experiments and analysis for 6 months after this doubleheader is played. They're gonna try to analyze everything for like 6 months after to figure out, okay, this worked, this didn't, this grass is cool, this worked, this grass didn't keep, all these kinds of things. I mean, if you're like Scott's or Pikes or Hastings or something, you're going to want to be a part of this study.
You want, and this will be my thing before I leave. You want to know where I'm going to be watching real close?
What?
The game in Arizona, because the field at University of Phoenix Stadium has been abhorrent for every single Fiesta Bowl that I can remember, and for the Super Bowl. You gonna put that grass out there again?
Yeah. Woo. Super Bowl field. Everybody's looking at the Super Bowl field, the NRG turf.
To be fair, Emilio, for the fraction, that's just they had to change over. They had to change over the types of grass, just because they needed something that would hold up better for all of the games, and they had to pick a really unfortunate time to do it because. While Atlanta United 2 is a big tenant there, Kennesaw State football, which is about to go D1 to Conference USA, is also there, and that is their big cash cow.
Yeah.
So they had to have that. They had to grow it in the summer during the summer months so that it would be ready for football season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the reasons it looks so bad. It was bad though. Jack Collison was not happy about it for months at a time.
No. No.
Oh, well.
Uh-huh.
I'm done.
All right. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Jared Smith, everybody. And, soccer, lacrosse, and American football. There was a lot of sand and there was points. All right. So, the pie plate. The whole field rolls outside in Arizona. Yeah, they put it on a pie plate. They take care of it, and then they roll it in. And so that's, your grass turf discussion is that was part of when they built the stadium out in Arizona, that they could take care of the grass. And it's the same, I think, at Spurs Stadium, where the grass is maintained below the turf surface and they can elevate and pull and do what they need to do. And Tom, to your point, the way that technology advances, there's got to be some way to have grass permanently. Growing light system could be used. Yeah, and that's Abby. There literally is like growth and lights and things like that below the surface, the playing surface at Spurs Stadium. So, finally grass at MBS. You get them land USMNT and USWMNT games. Oh goodness. So there you go. Bringing the crew from Augusta National. Yes, Ed Mangan. Let's see. A couple of notes, obviously, and guys. It's been a great conversation this morning. I know that we've had a lot of different conversations this morning. Brad Guzan out 10 to 12 weeks. with the MCL injury, and Siegel was named in the release. And there are folks on social media who are sitting there and saying that that the Burke was that it wasn't an egregious foul, and I would differ, and I'm just going to put it like that. And great conversation. It looks like Quentin Westberg once again. It's next man up. Quentin Westberg, Clement Diop, and Vicente Reyes. That's your next three. Franco Ibarra obviously not in training this morning because of trying to prepare for Toronto. So we'll see what happens there. The irony of Quentin Westberg heading back to BMO this week. So there was that. There was the Premier League discussion. We sort of had a Red Bulls discussion this morning. You guys have been great. The conversation that you guys have had this morning, all the different ideas and bringing stuff to the fore has been fantastic. Abby, thank you. Yeah, So be safe, Abby. Yeah, we do have to figure out a time to drop off the matzah crack. Yeah, we're here in the office most of the day today, and most of the day tomorrow, trying to figure out. I mean, it's when you're on a red. I mean, Emilio, just look at it this way: when you're on a red and you're not playing in the match on the weekend. I mean, literally, it doesn't mean that you just stop training or anything, but this week, Gonzalo Pineda and the staff are going to be in mode to prepare for Toronto, and Franco Ibarra with the red card is not going to be a part of that preparation. I mean, it doesn't mean that you're going to be put over on an island over on Delk Road or something, but the primary focus in practice is going to be, okay, what's my solution to prepare for Toronto, and trying to figure that out with the Franco Ibarra out with the red card. So don't read too much into it. Just basically, it's like, all right, I've got to focus on my game day 18 and my starting 11. Franco Ibarra is not a part of that. Like I said, it doesn't mean that you're just, over in a corner someplace. So, not necessarily a surprise. Then that's what you're looking at. But busy morning for Atlanta, and once again, Premier League doubleheader coming up in July during Leagues Cup. Grass at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So that's what. We got our first bot for the morning, and it's been a while. So everybody, if you would please report the individual there as a bot, even though I was first to watch it. But WNT watch party at Fido Midtown tonight. Obviously tomorrow we'll have Bart Keeler on to talk about that, to talk about Mal Swanson, to talk about all the officiating down here that we've had going on, and it's been a lot. There's been a lot. Tonight, Ryan T. Clark, Becky Sauerbrunn celebrating 200 caps with the women's national team in her hometown of St. Louis. So Ryan Clark has a story on that at OregonLive.com for those of you that want to catch up with that. Reading in the championship has fired Paul Ince after dropping into the relegation zone. They've lost 5 in a row. I'm sure that if you look at Jessica Charman's Twitter, she's probably been saying a couple things about that this morning. Ben Jacobs reporting third round of bidding in the Manchester United sale process. Groups have until the end of April to make their next offers. He can confirm that Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are both through in the process. And police have requested a change in the Arsenal match. And we got to keep an eye on that. The Arsenal match against Chelsea on April 29th has been moved to May the 2nd. Set to go ahead at the Emirates as the late kickoff on Saturday, but policing issues have forced the Premier League to move the fixture to Tuesday night instead. Premier League released the following statement. Premier League fixture between Arsenal and Chelsea for the Emirates, slated for 5:30, now take place Tuesday night at 8. So Tuesday, May 2nd here on the East Coast, the 3 o'clock kick. Initial scheduling of the match was approved at a safety advisory group meeting in February. However, the Metropolitan Police has now revised its position regarding the kickoff time, requested a further meeting to determine the match that had to be rescheduled. Regret the move to move the fixture. So you got that is going on this morning. let's see, Dean Smith appointed as your Leicester manager. Man City Bayern live on Talk Sport later today, and that's who gave us the information for that. Also, gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. What can we watch today? You got CONCACAF Champions League, the second legs of Violette and Leon. Leon is in charge of that, and LAFC Vancouver, and LAFC is in charge of that, 8 and 10:15. Champions League, Manchester City, Bayern Munich is at 3, and 2 to NA is also simulcasting Champions League. Universo has the women's friendly with USA and Ireland. Univision has the Champions League simulcast. HBO Max has the international women's friendly with USA and Ireland. Paramount Plus has action in the Argentine Primera. 1 o'clock, Baracas Central. 6 o'clock, Argentinos Juniors and Union Santa Fe. Triple header at 8:30. Bonfield, Defensa y Justicia, Central Córdoba, Lanús, Instituto Vélez Sarsfield. Both Champions League matches, Benfica, Inter, Manchester City, Bayern, are on Paramount Plus. Peacock also has the international women's friendly. VIX has Benfica, Inter, and VIX Plus has both Benfica, Inter, Manchester City, and Bayern Munich. Also on the board this morning, getting into our daily round of gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. And also on the board later today, the USL programming coming up, USL League One, USL Championship, Prem and Proper will be up later today as well. Still working on our game of the week for high school. We're now in the first round of playoffs. A lot of teams in the lower rounds, lower classifications have buys. So we're still trying to sort out where we are going. We've got a good idea where we're going. It'll be one match. And tomorrow, hopefully, we will be on the network, and we will be able to let you in on the first round of the playoffs in the GHSA. And so when we know, we'll let you know what our matchup is in there. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Aston Villa is still interested in signing Calvin Phillips from Manchester City. Ben Chilwell set to sign a new 4-year deal at Chelsea. Lionel Messi and his father and his agent Jorge met with Barca. No transfer proposal was offered for the forward. Marco Reus will take a pay cut to sign a new deal at Borussia Dortmund. West Ham monitoring Manchester United's Aaron Wan-Bissaka with the prospect of a summer move. Arsenal open to selling Valérien Balogun this summer, currently on loan at Reims. Arsenal and Chelsea among the clubs interested in the move for Wolfsburg's right back Rydel Baku. Chelsea hope to keep Joao Felix, who joined on loan for next season. That comes from Fabrizio Romano. Newcastle United want to sign Watford Brazilian forward Joao Pedro in the summer. Brighton hopeful of agreeing with a new contract with 18-year-old forward Evan Ferguson, despite interest from Manchester United and Spurs. That comes from the four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Also from the four-letter paper, Brighton interested in signing Arsenal's winger Reece Nelson, whose contract expires at the end of the year. And Liverpool want to sign Bristol City midfielder 19-year-old Alex Scott this summer, but West Ham and Wolves are also interested. Arsenal monitoring Bayern Munich. Midfielder Ryan Gravenberch, also a target for Manchester United. Leeds have been ordered to pay £24.5 million to former French striker Jean-Kevin Augustin after being found to have breached his contract. And Barcelona ready to offer 19-year-old defender Alejandro Balde a new contract, but Chelsea remain interested in signing him at the end of the season. So great conversation today about pro, great conversation about Atlanta United and their schedule and their injuries and what we thought about that. Guys, thanks again, and we'll do it again tomorrow as scheduled. Dylan Butler is coming on at 10. We may as well just have Bart Keeler on for the entire show. Have him on from 9 to 10, catch his breath at 10 o'clock, and have him back at 10:30 with everything going on, whether it's WNT, Mal Swanson, officiating down here. And by the way, the official that was involved in the dust-up with Jordan Henderson has been removed from his next round of assignments. And I want to get the wording correct on that. Let's see. The assistant ref, Konstantin Hatzidakis, will not officiate until the Andy Robertson investigation ends. We haven't had the chance to catch up on this. Hatzidakis will not officiate until his investigation over an alleged elbow on Andy Robertson has been completed, according to the PGMOL. Approached by Robertson as the halftime whistle blew during the 2-2 draw with Arsenal, insisting and now Robertson is insisting that the AR struck him in the throat with an elbow. Robertson was given a yellow by Paul Tierney for the involvement. Jordan Henderson. Then you had, this is the thing about Sky. It's like when all these pop-ups come in, they obstruct your view of everything. So, given a yellow, Jordan Henderson appealed officials to discuss the incident. Statement from PGMOL. PGMOL will not be appointing Konstantin Hatzidakis to fixtures in any of the competitions it serves, whilst the FA investigates the incident involving the assistant referee and Liverpool defender Andrew Robertson at Anfield. And then Jeff Shreves had the comments about him being elbowed in the throat. So there you go. So PGMOL has pulled Hatzidakis until further notice. So we'll keep an eye on that when it comes to all the other activity. Trying to see what's going on. Remember yesterday, Wrexham, great finish there. They are 3 points up on Notts County with a match in hand, that much closer to getting into League Two. Saw also, and Ben Foster, who comes in at the age of 40, now he's 40. He started when he was 39, helping out between the sticks, and Foster had the big PK save late to preserve full points. But looks like this season, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney have lost $3 million. They're operating a $3 million deficit with what they've invested in trying to get Wrexham into the League Two. So we'll see what happens there. Looks like, according to the other papers, once again, avoiding the 3 and the 4 letter papers as we always do when it comes to all of our information. Daily Mirror says that the bidders in the race for Manchester United have grown frustrated over the Glazers family and their lack of updates. Villarreal, according to The Athletic, Villarreal's Alex Baena has revealed his family have received death threats after he was allegedly attacked by Real Madrid's Federico Valverde. Also on the board, Fulham will take part in the 6-team tournament. We talked about that. Telegraph, Paul Ince got the sack. We talked about that. Avoiding the 3-letter paper. Daily Express, former Spurs winger Darren Anderton has backed his old club to appoint Brendan Rodgers as their new head coach in the summer. And the Times, the owner of relegation-threatened Southampton, faces having to pay back a £110 million loan, money he used to buy the club last year, and do that by the end of 2024. Daily Record, Ange Postecoglou has shut down long-term injury fears surrounding Real Hatate and insisted the playmaker will be back for the bid to create for the run-in. And Stephen Fletcher's adamant Dundee United are finally fit for survival thanks to a second preseason under Jim Goodwin. So that is your information for today. We'll do it again tomorrow. Once again, we'll be talking about the same things that we talked about today. Great conversation. Glad that you guys were a part of it. Back at 9:05, Dylan Butler slated for 10, Bart Keeler slated for 10:30. Like I said, we might as well just have Bart on for the entire show with everything we got to talk about. Watch the USWNT tonight and see what it looks like without Mallory Swanson in the lineup, and we'll see what Vlad Kwandanowski has in mind. So for everybody here at SDH, for Jarrett, for Jason, for Nick, I'm just John. Play it safe, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us for your Tuesday thoughts. We'll be back at it for a Wall Pass Wednesday. And since it is the end of the show, it means that I get to do this, and we will do it again tomorrow. Play it safe, everybody. See you in the morning.